In this episode, we're talking with Erika Mayor out of Miami, Florida, and she has a suite of tools that she wants us to know about that she has used herself to grow her business. And it's always amazing to hear from people who are using the tools that you need to use to control your growth. Before we go into the conversation with Erika, though, please subscribe to our podcast, give us a rating, leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. When we hear from you, it actually helps us to find the right set of folks and, of course, the right set of tools to talk to you about. So without further ado, folks, let's go and meet Erika for a deep dive. Erika, welcome. It's so good to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, I know our listeners are anxious to hear more about you and what you do. So why don't we get started with that? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Awesome. So my name is Erika Mayor, and I basically am a consultant. I'm a freelancer that does public relations, digital marketing, and just marketing in general for all types of businesses. I actually started in journalism and out of Miami, Florida, and kind of got sidetracked into PR. I don't have a degree in PR. I kind of learned it as I went along, trial by fire. But I was lucky that I started in nonprofit. And when you work at a local nonprofit, there's not a lot of resources, so you have to do everything yourself. And that's where I learned about websites, social media. I was just kind of starting at that point. And that led me into a long career in nonprofit. And that led me to work for great organizations like St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I was there for several years. And after I started a family, I decided to go on my own. And now I consult and freelance for, like I mentioned, small businesses, corporations, but my passion is nonprofit.
Awesome. And how did you get to this point though from a marketing perspective? I know you mentioned that you've been to several different places, but give us a little more about that journey that got you here today.
So I was working at a local TV station during the 2005 hurricane season, which was absolutely crazy in South Florida. And I got really burnt out and I said, I got to find something. And at that time, we were working with the American Red Cross quite a bit because obviously they were providing a lot of support during the hurricane season. And they offered me a job and they kind of said, we need someone to do communications. Do you know a little bit about it? And I thought, well, I get a lot of press releases. I'm a good writer. Sure, I'll figure it out. And it was kind of one thing led to the other. And I loved public relations. I really loved it. I loved the fact that I could still work with media. And there was a crisis management component to it, crisis communications. And one thing led to the other. And like I mentioned, when you work in nonprofit, you have to learn a little bit about everything. And so I was lucky to be able to dab into all these different things. And then eventually throughout my career, I got a lot into social media. And I took a course in digital marketing and advertising, and that opened up a whole new window of opportunity and getting to really help clients that maybe PR wasn't the best avenue for them, but definitely Facebook ads were a good deal.
Pretty nice. That's exciting. And so we're going to be talking today about a suite of tools. I understand that you have used yourself to grow and to help others. So let's dive right into it. So tell me about the suite of tools that we're talking about today. What are they? I know that you've got them categorized as well. So let's talk about them.
Absolutely. And it comes from two different perspectives. One, as an entrepreneur, as a self-business owner, I really didn't have the budget to pay for a lot of these platforms and services that corporations or agencies use. So I had that perspective, but also I work with nonprofits that definitely don't have the budget and they can't hire someone. So for example, let's talk about tools that help you with your social media. Now it's really important to have a presence, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, or if you have the time, TikTok, for example. But what are the tools that are going to make your life easier? Not everybody has an intern that is savvy in that. Perhaps you are an entrepreneur and you want to put stuff out there, but what do you put out? How do I find content? Maybe you're not good at graphic design. So there are tools out there that are free that you can certainly make yourself look better and bigger than what you are, or getting to that point in your business. But in the meantime, they really are helpful. So from the digital side, let's say you're looking for social media tools. Everybody's heard of Canva. Canva is phenomenal. That is probably one of the ones that I would invest a little bit and maybe upgrade past the free one, because it opens up a suite of photos and graphics and all that good stuff. But some other ones that I really, really love is the scheduling tool. So when I work with nonprofits, they say, I don't have the time to post. And I said, okay, but you can probably sit down on a Sunday night while you're watching TV and schedule the post for the week. And they're like, what do you mean schedule? And I tell them about platforms like Later. And there's a whole suite of them that are free, that you basically organize yourself and you say, I plan out, a month of post, and I'm free of it. Then all you really have to do is monitor and make sure that you're getting likes, that you're getting comments, but at a very, very minute area of having these tools to help you. It will make your brand look alive, because at the end of the day, people judge you by your social media. So I've talked to people that are small business owners and they say, I haven't posted in 2 months. I said, well, people might think you shut down. During the pandemic, tons of businesses shut down. So going to someone's social media is the first way of realizing, okay, they're still out there. How many times do we look for restaurants and then go to their social media to see pictures of food? And if no one's posted in a long time, you think, oh, they definitely shut down. So by using tools to schedule, it makes a huge difference. When you're looking at digital marketing, they always say videos attract more viewers than still photos. What if you don't have the time and you have no clue how to edit video? There is a website called Lumen 5, and I think it's pronounced Lumens, but it's actually Lumen 5. And it's such an easy tool to use, and it is free. So we recommend that for a lot of nonprofits that just don't have the budget to hire someone to edit these videos. And even on your iPhone, there's apps on the iPhone itself that really are nice. They're just a little more intricate. But one really cool thing that we learned using Lumens is that you can actually put in a script, and it will take keywords in the script and create a visual blog for you, which is phenomenal. So it creates this amazing video, and you go in and you tweak it. Maybe you didn't like the photo that it picked out, but it does a lot of the work for you. And there are tools that the more you use them, the better you get at it. And then you become kind of an expert. And the content you put out just looks better and better. So
That's
from
awesome.
the digital side, those are really great.
That's awesome. So there's a sort of a set of digital suite of tools, from scheduling to creating posts to creating videos as well, right? Or were there any other tools that you wanted to
Yes.
include?
So there's other tools like Video Leap. There's another, that Video Leap is kind of like another editor of videos. And there's a couple of them that Snapseed is one of my favorite to edit photos. So for example, let's say you don't want to dabble into videos just yet, but you want to have really pretty photos. Snapseed is a really cool tool to edit, and they have great filters that go a step further. On Instagram, you can edit your photos a little bit, but Snapseed is free. And I have a friend of mine that she works with a lot of influencers, and that's what she uses a lot of the time to edit the photos, unless you have to do something super intricate and use something like a Facetune. But if you're looking just to make your product pictures or your event pictures looks nice, Snapseed is the way to go.
Awesome. And I know we talked a little about some organization tools too, that you can kind of tap with this. And for our listeners, we're going to be sharing these tools in the show notes. So, stay tuned until the end of the show, and you'll be able to access these tools. You'll be able to see them in the show notes. So don't worry if you miss one. We've covered a couple of them so far. I hear Snapseed. I hear Canva. I've heard Lumen 5. I've also heard of, it's a Video Leap, right?
Yes.
And so, and I know we had touched on some organizational tool as well, because like, how do you organize yourself with all these different tools? How do you stay productive and ensure that you understand what comes before what, and then prioritize your way? So what are some of those other organizational tools that you can tell us?
Absolutely. So let's say you have people on your team or even yourself that you're trying to keep organized. There are tools out there like Meister Task or Asana that basically help you keep your task organized. Old school me used to have a notebook, and I still use notebooks and notepads and the calendar on my iPhone to keep myself aware of what I need to do and my deadlines. But it gets crazy and you need to be kept accountable. And these systems keep you accountable and they keep your team accountable. So the best part is that you could really lay these systems out in whatever way works best for your business. So for my clients, for example, that I work with them on social media, let's say one person is talking to the client, the other person is writing the social post, and maybe somebody else is creating the graphics or taking photos. How are we talking to each other? Because email gets really bogged down and confusing, and people don't always read all their emails. So these tools allow you to have one place where you can assign things. And that's the big word, is assigning responsibilities to people. You give them the deadline and you give a short description of what it is that you want. And there's really no excuse when you miss it, because most of these tools will send you email alerts and kind of a countdown like, hey, you got a project assigned to you and it's due November 15th. And then a couple days out, you're going to be receiving a bunch of emails, which is annoying, but it's the virtual version of a micromanager kind of on top of you saying, hey, you have this task, have you done it? And I've caught myself when I've done it for myself that I forget things. And if it wasn't for that system sending me a reminder, I would have missed the task. We're all super busy. And if you have a team, even if it's 2 people or it's 15 people, it is the best way to track work. And it also is very helpful when a client comes in and says, what have you done for me this month? You go back to that and you say, listen, these are all the tasks that we've done, and these are the people responsible for it. It keeps you really accountable. So for me, working without it is leaving open holes for people to fail. You know, not everybody's responsible. Some people are great at it. Some people need a little push, and this is the push that really gets them going.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, MySatask is one of the tools that we use as well, and they're a sponsor for our podcast. So big shout out to MySatask for making work easy. Like MySatask helps you to get a lot of stuff done. It's a no-brainer to have an organizational tool, and you can go out and compare. I mean, there are a number of them that are out there, right? But and so you have that responsibility. If you want to maintain a certain level of productivity and organization, compare them and see what works best for you, right? And that's why there's so many, because to each his own, and you want to find one that's a good fit. So talk to me a little about like who. So now that we've sort of understood the suite of tools, who are these tools for? Like, who are some of the best people that could potentially use these tools? I know you come from the nonprofit background and you work with small business as well, but let's hear a little bit about who exactly that might be listening would be a good fit for using these tools.
On a very granular level, people that are accountants, people that are maybe they have their own insurance agency, even people that are providing a service like hairstylists, restaurants, anything of that sort, that you need a presence online, you need a presence on social media. These are the tools you have to maintain that presence and make it look professional. And they all tie in together. So we talked about the tools to make you look good on social media, to keep you organized. And then the part about the apps that help you create the content from that angle. But who's managing that? Who's keeping you accountable on, okay, we were supposed to post this month because it was breast cancer awareness month or it was mental health awareness month and we missed it. Who was responsible for that? So all these tools lay on top of each other and support each other. So if you're an accountant and you designate your secretary, your administrative assistant to manage your Facebook page, how are you providing her information? These tools, these platforms give you a channel to do that, and leave your email to do the business side of it. And that's what's really great, So if you're going to build a tool and you're going to introduce it into your business and to your team, the only responsibility I really say is that you get to work with it and you get to know it. And then assign someone else to be kind of co-captain in that sense, to get to play with it really well, because then you can rely on them to train everyone else. Because I'll be honest, when I first started working with some of the boutique agencies that I consult with, they slammed me with all of these apps, and they said, we need to put you into Asana, we need to put you into Slack, you need to get an account in Canva. And I was like, whoa, I don't have time for all this on top of the emails I already do. And it was a hurdle. But once I crossed that hurdle, now I can't work without it. Now these are the tools that we use. So the way that I have my system set up with most of my clients is, email to me is to keep things legitimate and in paper, right? You asked for this, send it to me in email so I have proof that it was sent and this is what you wanted. We use MeisterTask or Asana to make sure I get it done for you. And if I have a quick question, I'll use a tool like Slack with the team. And that's one we haven't talked about, but Slack is a really good instant messenger. It's an internal chat. And that allows you to do so many things as well, but it relieves people from having to be tied down to email, and it leaves email clean for what you really need it for.
This podcast is sponsored by MeisterTask, the most intuitive task manager on the web. MeisterTask is an easy-to-use project management tool. Makes it easy and fun and colorful to get all your projects managed in one place. As an entrepreneur, I use MeisterTask to help me manage all of my projects. I can drag and drop different tasks. I can assign key people to the task. I can set deadlines and schedules and enjoy just beautiful colors while I do that. So if you are interested in trying MeisterTask, go to meistertask.com/DMT tools. That's meistertask.com/DMT tools. And you can sign up for a free trial when you upgrade to the Pro plan. So get started for free today and invite your team members and get productive together. That's awesome. So explain to us, how are these tools, and I know it's several of them, how are they sort of different from alternatives? Like if you're not using these tools, because this process sounds like it's the most productive way to get things done. If folks are not using these, what are they using, and how are these different from some of the other ones that we've been hearing about out there?
Well, I would imagine that they're relying a lot on their Gmail accounts, on their Outlook email accounts, and that's great. But and then within those Gmail accounts, you probably are saving your emails in different folders or having them feed the emails into different accounts. And that is a very organized way to keep that going. But things are going to fall through the roof. And I think having these tools help you stay on top of things and help you give your staff a level of responsibility. It really makes a difference when you take your business to the next level and add free services that are out there. All of these you can pay a little bit extra a month, all of them. But there's free tools that will help you get organized. And then once you find the ones you love, budget yourself and give yourself a yearly budget and say, you know what? I really need this. The Slack thing is working really well because I can see, who's working. I can ask them a quick question, and there's no excuse of, oh, I went to lunch, I didn't see your email. No, because now tools like Slack give you a little ding on your phone and it comes right up. So for companies and nonprofits, it is of a certain level. And even at the big time, I've seen PR firms that are super big using these tools, especially tools like Slack, to maintain a level of communication and even team camaraderie. Like when somebody does something great, they put it on Slack and everybody cheers and there's emojis. It helps us because we are tied to our screens and our computers all the time. So it's nice to have something to sort of flip out of the email mode and say, oh, look, somebody sent a funny thing on here. Or oh, somebody reminded me that we have a call and it's not on email. It's email to me is very formal. And these other ones let you be a little bit more flexible and not as impersonal.
Yeah. And so as we think about these tools, like I like practicalities because listeners really kind of want to get a very sort of use case, a very, very close situation on how they could actually use it. So as I think, for example, of Lumen 5, like if you want to put a 15-second ad on Facebook, you could literally go into Lumen 5 and put your script and so forth. Talk to me a little about maybe using one of those tools, like a real case scenario. What can we do with these tools? Give me a real life kind of a scenario and how these tools come into play.
Absolutely. So I had a client that worked in the transportation industry, in marine transportation, and I was working through an agency supporting this client. And the topic was really heavy and it wasn't easy for the general public to digest. So the idea is, yes, you could write blogs to promote your business. You could do press releases to get it out there. But if you want to educate the general public or show the community what you're about, you got to put it in a context that they absorb fast and quick. And nowadays, video is what people are absorbing. Not a lot of people have time to be reading blogs, right? If we're watching something, it's probably in between TV shows. Sometimes even in the car, people are watching stuff. So one of the tools that we use with this client is we took some of their blogs that were very content heavy, that weren't getting a lot of traction, and we put it into Lumen 5. And it was some thick stuff. It was a lot of industry heavy jargon. And the video just popped up. It did it for you. And it picked out certain parts of the script. The bot does it for you. And all you had to do was go in and edit. So this blog that was very thick now is a visual. And it picked up certain words like ocean, boat, transportation, and it picked what in the industry we call B-roll, which is basically video, background video. And some of it was great. Some of it we had to edit, but my God, it was so easy to use. So for some of the newer people on the team, we work with some folks that were just right out of college. They really liked it. They said, okay, this is something I can handle. And for people that are not very tech savvy, it saves you so much time because it basically says, here is a kind of a draft for you to make it your own. But it was a really great way for this client to be able to touch upon a younger audience that is not into reading, 700 and 800 words about industry news. So for us, that was a big eye opener. And the fact that it was free was even better.
Yeah. And speaking of free too, for folks who are, this is usually a question like, what is it going to cost me to invest in these tools? And a lot of times it's really not even an expense, listeners. It's really an investment if you want to get the best out of it. So if folks who are listening and they're interested in using these suite of tools, I know people might be writing it down and sort of holding things to memory. What should they actually do to use some of these tools? Are these tools typically free? They start free? And they work their way into an upgrade. Like, talk to me a little about that sort of investment for listeners.
So one that I pay now religiously is Canva because I use it almost daily. But I waited a whole year before I paid for the premium. Once I realized that the clients I was getting were requiring better images, they wanted fancier things. I said, you know what? The $100-something, I think it's a year, it was worth it. And Canva's funny because my 8-year-old actually uses it. It's that user friendly. And she loves the fact that I have the premium version because she gets access to a whole bunch of little cartoons that she loves. But that gives you an example of how easy it is. But at the end of the day, I would recommend, and this is some of the stuff that I do when I am not sure which option to use, I go on YouTube and there are people that compare these. The moment you put in the name of one service, one tool, people are going to, right away, you'll see competitors come up. So what I do is that I go to YouTube and I compare and I watch what people that have already used them can share. And that saved me a lot of time, especially when I was looking for the tool to schedule social posts, because there's so many of those. And I said, okay, I know I've heard of these two. Let me go ahead and try. And that's one of the things that I like most about Later is that it's super easy as well. And that's what I need. I don't need things that are going to bog me down with processes. I don't need to take 2 weeks to learn something. And I don't like to get spam like, okay, great, you could use this, but you have to upgrade. That to me gets really annoying. And then I switch to something else. But watching videos on YouTube on how to use these tools is, to me, was a lifesaver. It saved me time.
Nice, nice. So yeah, I mean, I know staying in business, for example, for years, Erika, is not easy. And there's a lot of times we want our listeners to understand how others have done it and why they can actually do it too. So how have you stayed in this space for this long? And what would you say has been the best thing that happened to you since?
So starting off as a consultant, I really did it very grassroots. And I worked for the first 5 years really off of referrals. And I was and still do. And I was very proud of that. But I fell into a space of conformity. And I thought, well, I don't need a website. I don't need anything like that because I'm getting business regardless. But then I realized I regardless need to look legitimate because there could be a potential new client out there that doesn't know me that I could work with, but I don't have a presence. I don't have a website. So then came a whole other like journey of how do I build a website? I've never done that before. And I was lucky to come into that time frame where sites like Wix were coming about that have a lot of free tools as well. And even GoDaddy has tools to build your own websites. But I chose Wix because I was able to do it myself. But here's the funny part. When it comes to websites, sometimes it's better to pay people because that's very intricate and I'm not a web designer. I had an idea what I wanted, but after sitting there for hours, I was driving myself insane. And I was like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But I realized as an entrepreneur that you do have to have something that makes you look legitimate. You get judged immediately by your online presence. So I was lucky to have people that did web design. I actually had a friend in Colombia went into Wix and he designed it for me and it looks so great. And he did it like in 24 hours. And I said, sometimes it's good to pay for things and you don't have to be an expert at everything, but I love that I have control of the Wix. I can go in at any moment and have any change. I change my profile picture or I add a new client logo and you have the power to do it. So that's the beauty of all of these tools that we've talked about. You have the control. So let's say that you are an attorney and you need a new logo, but you don't know any graphic designers. And right now you just bought a new office, you just hired another assistant, you don't have the budget for it. Well, there's some pretty good logos on Canva that you can kind of design yourself. And yes, it's time consuming, but it's all based on what it is that you can and you want to do at that time for your business.
Yeah.
So it's how grassroots you want to be.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I mean, that's really great information, Erika. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with us today?
At the end of the day, whatever you do, I love to always tell people to kind of pay it forward and share with people what tools you know. So if you run into somebody that is a business owner or somebody that works at a nonprofit, share the tools that you're working with, because at the end of the day, you make somebody's life a whole lot easier.
And that's the best advice, and it's paying things forward, right? Because chances are someone told you about it, and
Yeah.
it's only helpful to share it with others. I usually have some final questions that I ask all of my guests, and one of those are, I want to know what books you're reading or what books you have read that sort of made an impact on your life, and if what podcasts do you listen to. So let's start with the books. What are the books that you are reading or have read that you'd love to share with us?
Well, let me look right now. So I usually read one book a month that is kind of like just fiction, just for enjoyment. And then I read some that I'm like, okay, I gotta learn something. I gotta be out there, keeping track of what's out there. So right now, I'm reading. Sorry if I have to curse, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F.
Okay,
I'm reading that one
okay.
by Mark Manson. That one's really good. And I think it's on Audible as well. And
Mhm.
then the fiction book I was reading was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And funny enough, I found out about these books watching TikToks. So there's a
Okay.
whole big area on TikTok books that give me great recommendations.
Nice. So it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, and then the other one is Midnight. What's the
Library.
Midnight Library? And it's so you can check those books out. And what about podcasts? I mean, outside of the Get More podcast, what else do you actually listen to?
There was a podcast the other day that I ran into. I gotta look for the name again, but it's basically taking a look at modern pop culture and finding out the myths about it. We'll have to look back. The name slips me right now, but um, I tend to listen to a lot of podcasts that are funny, because sometimes I'm in the car for a long time and I just need a good laugh. So I was listening to Conan O'Brien. He has a podcast called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, which is pretty funny. And then the one I was mentioning, it's called You're Wrong About. And it's a whole series of things that we've known in pop culture and in the news, and they actually dive in and they're like, this is what you thought happened, but this is what really happened. So that was interesting.
Pretty cool, pretty cool. Now, and you're not in Clubhouse by any chance, right? Do you hang out in Clubhouse a
I
lot?
was hanging out, and then the pandemic happened, and as a joke, I got into TikTok, and that has put me down a rabbit hole that I can't get out of. And so
No,
I'm there
that's cool.
now. I'm
That's
waiting for
all
the
good.
next. I need something to get me out of TikTok. So what's the next
That's all
drug?
good. Hopefully Clubhouse can pull you out of it. But we're always looking for creators and master users like yourself, Erika, of tools that really help other businesses and help their own businesses to grow, that can help others. Who do you think should be our next guest for us to talk to, who might have knowledge or maybe have created a tool himself, but have knowledge about using tools to really grow business?
Actually, one of the PR firms that I work with, called Wonder PR, the owner of that uh, agency, saw a little bit of a hole when, in PR we have to pay for media lists. There's companies like Cision, Mudrack, um, Meltwater, that are extremely pricey, especially for small boutique firms and entrepreneurs like myself. But clients need it. Clients tell you, we want to send out a press release to people that cover science in animal veterinarian studies, something very specific. So you go into these tools and you pull the list out. But I remember being charged almost $4,000, being quoted that much a year, and that's quite an expense. So she actually created a tool that is really great for small boutique agencies. It's called Sidekick, and you pay as you go. If you need a list for companies that cover bakers or restaurants or whatever it is, she sends that to you at a very affordable price.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
that
So
was
we should
great.
definitely get the folks from Sidekick. We'll work with you to help us to get them on the show. We'd love to chat with them about that tool. It sounds like something that we could all use. from time to time. So thank you so much, Erika. I really appreciate you coming in here. This is not the last time, though. We'd love to check in with you a couple, a couple of weeks or months from now, just to see how you're doing and what else you have discovered in terms of tools that can actually help business to grow. So good looking out, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
That was Erika again talking about a suite of tools that you can use to organize yourself. You can use to schedule your content distribution, and of course you can use to create content. And so that was a fantastic conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, folks. And you find a lot of these tools we're going to be mentioning in the show notes. So don't forget to check them out. Give us a rating on our podcast. Let us know how we're doing. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to us. Help us to make this easier and better for other business owners who want to rule their growth. So until next time, folks, we always say on here, choose a tool to help you rule your growth. Talk soon.